Never mind in America, there simply cannot be a place in the world that is a better place for comedy than Los Angeles. Within a couple of miles radius, you have some giant legendary comedy clubs. I saw Patton Oswalt on Sunday. I saw Mark Maron on Monday. You've got an assortment of things happening this week in comedy. And I'm happy to have Brad Williams here along with Amin and Charlotte because the state of comedy is interesting to me. It was already under some duress because so many comedians are complaining about not having freedom under cancel culture. But I'm watching Oswalt and Mark Maron, and they were both struggling with just everything that's happening in the world. Both of them have arrived in a place where they're thinking, America as we know it and the world as we know it is basically going to be gone within 8 years. And they're trying to do comedy within that construct as everything that happens in Israel now is, just depressing people all over the world. So, Brad, when you, first off, there's no place like this, correct? New York maybe comes close, but there can't be any place like Los Angeles in terms of having access to funny.
Yeah, there's New York, and right now Austin, Texas is kind of on the come up with Rogan opening his club, and on that 6th Street where his club is located, there's like 2 or 3 other comedy clubs. So, but they don't have like the star power like you just described, where you can go to the Comedy Store and there's 3 rooms at the Comedy Store. In every room, there's a national touring headliner that could be selling at a theater. I saw Chappelle in the belly room of the Comedy Store a few weeks ago, and that holds 50 people. And I'm sitting here going, oh my God, people would be paying thousands of dollars to be here right now.
It's like watching a star pitcher in a minor league rehab assignment because they're just testing material. You could see they're reading from notes and stuff, but it's watching them how it is they craft their act. But Maron and Oswalt were having legitimate difficulties with just the state of the times.
Yeah, this is where I go for the ignorance is bliss argument for myself. Now, Maron, he a lot of his comedy is his personal thoughts, and he's having a lot of thoughts right now on the state of the world. Me, personally, I don't do that, but that's the wonderful part about comedy and why also being in Los Angeles is so great. You can see whatever comedian you want. If you want a certain type of comic, you can see them. If you want dirtier, if you want family friendly, if you want you want the geniuses like Maron and Patton, where they're over at the Largo. That's where you saw them. That's like a smaller theater where you'll see Conan O'Brien pop up, and
that's not even one of the big clubs down here, right? That's just, you could tell that thing is outdated. I was surprised that both of those guys were performing there.
Yeah, but that's where you go in LA. You kind of hone your material here in Los Angeles, and you go out on the road and you take it there. The thing about also being here is comedians are naturally competitive people. So when I see Patton Oswalt go up and kill a room and I'm on next, now I'm like, shit, I better bring my A game. And then if I do well, then the comedian going on after me is like, because we don't have typical shows of like host, feature, headliner here. It's just headliner, 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 headliner for 15 minutes each. So there's definitely, sometimes I'm about to go on and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to work on some new stuff. And then Ali Wong goes on before me and destroys. And I'm like, all right, let's break out the old jokes because I'm competitive. I want to kill right after one of the biggest comics working today. So yeah, there is, and like that whole iron sharpens iron. We're all getting better because we're constantly surrounded by each other.
You mentioned Rogan. It's been fascinating to watch his rise. And I've also been a little bit confused to see him and Russell Brand emerge as maximum truth tellers when I almost always think of comedians as liars. I think of them as people who just make stuff up, and I understand that they're going to make stuff up. So I was a little surprised when Hasan Minhaj got into, basically lost the Daily Show, right?
I would also say Rogan isn't an ultimate truth teller, depending, I'm not,
Check your mentions after this airs.
No, I know, but
come at me.
I'm saying they both Russell Brand and Joe Rogan have emerged now as people willing to tell you their audience thinks that they're telling more truth than the average person. When I just find that funny as an idea because comedians I don't think of as being involved in truth. But let me just Hasan Minhaj, for those of you who do not know, was involved in a great deal of controversy because he volunteered in an interview that he's just made up parts of his act that involve hate crimes against his people.
Yeah.
He's made up the parts where they're personal to him. The stories aren't untrue. Like, they have happened all over the country, but his, like, the part where, like, and then this happened to me, that part is embellished, which I'll leave it to Brad, but I'm like, isn't that what stand-up comics do? They take something that's funny and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna craft a story about how I was walking down the street. Like, you really think they were walking down the street?
Yeah, whenever we say the other day, no, that didn't happen the other day. I mean, the other day was 4 years ago, and we're still telling this bit. But so there is that line of course, comedians are going to make stuff up. That's what I think the comedian is the best at. Is we all lead funny lives. The comedian in general is the best at finding that incident that has happened to many people and finding how to change it and find the funny in it. And so, like Amin said, these things have happened in the world. Hasan just makes them more personal. I think where people got mad at Hasan is that because he made them personal, it made them feel a certain way. And now when they find out that didn't happen to him, their feeling feels betrayed. There might be a line that comedians have that we can't make up, but I don't know what that line is, because for me, the job of the comedian is ultimately to entertain the audience. Were you entertained? You felt that thing. Okay, mission accomplished. I get why people would be upset, but at the same time, you step back and you go, every movie that they said based on a true story, you think Cool Runnings was a documentary? You think they're just, you think right before going down the hill, all the guys were like, feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme, wake on up, it's bobsled time. Like, no, we make stuff up for comedic effect and to entertain you, the audience. So enjoy it. Sit back and enjoy it. And it's not even the worst thing Hasan Minhaj has ever done. The worst thing Hasan Minhaj has ever done, Amin, you know this, because I said this on your show way back long ago. The worst thing Hasan Minhaj ever did, I was in a celebrity basketball game with that guy. I was on his team. We were coming back, a roaring comeback against the likes. Bad Bunny was on my team. Before he was Bad Bunny. It was going amazing.
He was good Bunny?
Yeah, he was good Bunny.
Mildly misbehaving Bunny.
Lukewarm Bunny. And then we were coming back. Hasan gets the ball. He's coming down. We need a three-pointer to tie this ball game up. Ray Allen is on the wing. Ray mother effing Allen. I don't know. He's hit a couple of big threes in his life.
He's open.
Statistically, at that point, the greatest three-point shooter in the history of the NBA. Hasan took the shot.
No.
Why, Hasan? Ray Allen.
He could have just let Ray take it and said he made it.
Yes. This isn't Antonio McDice on the wing. This is Ray Allen. And Hasan took the shot. So don't go at Hasan for bending the truth a little bit and entertaining you with his stories. Go at him for that.
Charlotte, do you know the movie Cool Runnings? I don't expect you to.
Yeah.
I just love that he was referencing the Jamaican bobsled team, an Olympic bobsled team from 40 years ago. The thing about Hasan Minhaj, though, and one of the things that I think is interesting that's happening in comedy, where some comedians become the modern day philosophers. They become some of our smartest people that we're listening to, whether it is Chappelle or Bill Maher. I think this is a crime. Even if you don't think it's an egregious crime, I think it's enough to have cost him the Daily Show. Like, if you are somebody who is going to be in that lane as the host of somebody who's comedy but news, and we made Jon Stewart become a trusted news source.
I can see that, because if you're Jim Gaffigan and you lie about your experience with bacon, that doesn't have the necessary weight that Hasan Minhaj saying his daughter was sent anthrax in the mail, that happens. So I get that people are upset. Me, as the comedian, I kind of see the whole thing as being equal. It's where I stand back and go, yeah, we're all comedians. We're giving an experience to the audience. I get how people can feel betrayed, completely understand it. But and if you're, I think one thing that the audience really wants is authenticity. we laugh at Jim Gaffigan talking about bacon because they're like, yeah, I bet that guy eats a lot of bacon. Like that's
true.
That's authentic. When Neil Brennan goes on stage and has his thoughts about being a neurotic vegan, we look at Neil and go, checks out. If I went on stage and told jokes about my experiences as a 6'4" black man, even if they were funny, people would be like, we don't think you've actually had that happen to you.
I also think, though, that it depends what you are asking of the audience when you tell these jokes. Like saying your daughter was sent anthrax engenders a lot of sympathy from the audience and a lot of like feeling for someone and thinking how horrible that, and to find out, wait, that wasn't, I spent a lot of emotional energy on you and your daughter.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me it didn't happen. Whereas if you burn your bacon, I'm not going to feel as bad for you. I think the stakes are different, and I don't think it's all the same. I think it does depend on subject material.
In a weird way, Dan, it reminds me of people not being able to discern between analysts and reporters for sports, for instance, right? They would say, oh, the media is always lying. I don't believe this story written by Nick Friedel or whatever. Why? Well, I saw Stephen A. Smith said this on First Take. Well, no, but that's a different role. That's not Stephen A. Smith reporting. That's Stephen A. Smith on a debate show. And they don't know the difference. I
don't think the audience cares to make that discerning of a distinction.
So it's the same thing for me. You know, you talk about Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert, Hassan, Roy Wood, all these guys John Oliver, all these guys that host these comedic news shows.
They are all guys.
Yes. Chelsea Handler. But comedic news shows, right? But they're also stand-up comics. There's a difference between when Hassan hosts Patriot Act, which was his show on Netflix, where it is fact-based and kind of journalistic in nature. There's when John Oliver does Last Week Tonight, it is journalism in a sense, even though it's also aggregation. What they're doing is they're aggregating other people's journalistic work. Versus when they're on stage, they're telling jokes, man. They're comedians, but people have a hard time of dividing the two.
Well, but especially when it's hate crimes, though, right?
Yeah,
like
because that is a personal thing to a lot of people, and a lot of people have unfortunately gone through that. And so I get why people are upset. So when I tell a story about someone driving after me in a pickup truck in Odessa, Texas, yelling "Kill the dwarf," that did really happen to me, but I could understand why someone would be like, oh, wait, that, like, if they found out that was false, they would probably be upset because of the feelings that made them feel.
But Brad, I'm pretty sure you don't like somberly just say, and then the guy in the pickup truck. You're gonna make a joke out of it, right? You're gonna make us laugh.
Yeah,
Isn't that the point?
Yeah, the joke being that he used the correct terminology. While
he didn't say the M word.
Yeah, well, he didn't call me a midget, so he like, all right, well, let's hear you out.
Progress.
Yeah.
I was talking to Brad Williams before we recorded this segment.
Hi.
We're both Smiths fans.
Yes.
Not Jada and Will. Just more like this charming man Smiths.
Yes.
And I'd recently seen Morrissey, as I told you in the audience, and we were laughing about a story that I recently read because Morrissey wrote the CEO of Whole Foods and Jeff Bezos to take
It's funny already, Mike.
It feels like a random lib generator, right?
Yeah.
So far, and it's going to get even nuttier.
An email, he's firing it off like
I like to think Morrissey writes
a letter. A letter.
He uses a quill,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not with a feather from an animal.
Yeah.
Like,
No, just pick from his own logs.
Yes.
So he wrote the Bezos and the CEO of Whole Foods demanding that they remove the brand of coconut milk from their shelves because the coconut milk that they sell there is picked by violently trained monkeys. And Charlotte and I were trying to piece together.
Well, yeah, there's a grammar issue here. So violently trained, is it violently, trained monkey? Like the monkeys are trained and they're violent. I'm assuming it's that they're trained using violent methods because I don't know why Morrissey would have issue with a bunch of like really hardo monkeys picking coconuts.
Yeah, I picked a coconut. What of it?
Yeah. Like tossing them at people's heads.
I just figure like
knife.
those shots of like the Shaolin monks all training all in the field, but it's monkeys.
Yeah.
Just all doing katas.
Just doing the Kill Bill fish training. I I'm kind of down with the thought of a violent monkey, but I've also never come face to face with a violent monkey, especially when I'm in the way of the monkey and the coconut.
I have actually come. Well, I don't know. I'm going to say baboons are monkeys, monkey family, monkey.
We're all in the
Where's Ron
ape
McGill?
family.
Yeah.
We're all in the ape family.
A
Dan.
baboon. When I was in Africa, this is actually a funny story involving my wife. I'm going to say I don't think it's the funniest thing I've seen visually with my wife, but it's up there because she was in a bathroom, and there were a lot of places where there were just monkeys, and those were friendly enough and not dangerous. But we were warned about the baboons, and my wife is coming out of a public bathroom, and she can't see what's outside, but I can see what's outside, and I can see that there is a baboon approaching. And as I'm about to tell her, hey, hon, you need to be careful here, what happens is she comes sort of face to face with the baboon, and my wife jumps up and screams and runs in the other direction. But so does the baboon.
Yeah.
The baboon jumps. Yes, the baboon ran. They both frightened each other and then ran in opposite directions.
That is an incredible visual.
That is terrifying.
Yes.
Terrifying for Val.
I mean, we've all heard the 911 call of the monkey that ripped off the lady's face, and
Oof.
I like how there's a
Have we? I mean, we did
You
talk
I
about it.
listened to it twice last week.
Yeah.
That we there is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Is it just me?
Yeah.
was
I
Is it
remember
14
the.
years
I
ago?
remember
It was-
the
yeah, it was
story.
awful.
We talked
Yeah.
to Ron McGill about this
That's
woman.
how we met Ron McGill.
Had
we
a
needed
pet.
an expert.
Stop
Yes,
it.
we needed it. Is. I think that is the original story. We needed an expert to
Full
talk about
circle.
should you have that as a pet, and then the answer was no, obviously not, because her pet destroyed her
As
face.
someone that had grown up watching Sábado Gigante, I was like, I know just the guy.
I like that you saw a baboon about to go face to face with the love of your life, and your response was, hun.
I wasn't that calm.
Where is that between fight and flight?
I was beginning to get out the thought, and the baboon was not. I'm painting this as if they were nose to nose. They were not quite that close, but they were close enough to frighten
With
each
the
other.
same amount of enthusiasm as you would if she had a little bit of lipstick on her teeth, you said, hun, you have a baboon in your
General
circle.
It's like
vicinity.
Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Extraordinary.
I do think that the visual of the baboon, that's like out of Looney Tunes. Like them both jumping up in the air and running away. That's
Yeah.
it's beautiful actually. It's high comedy.
Yeah, because she's
Where were you staying in Africa that this was? I understand that you're out there on safari, but you knew that the very real possibility would be that your wife is brushing her teeth and then she turns a corner and is face to face with a baboon.
That is not the scariest story that happened in Africa to me.
I don't stay in a hotel if it doesn't have a microwave in the room.
Well,
and you're like, oh, baboons
no,
just roaming the premises.
This is one of the dumbest things I've ever done that I'm about to explain to
boy.
you.
Wow.
It might be, well, if I had died this way, it would have been the dumbest thing I had ever done. And I had the very real fear that I was going to die because we were staying on a private resort that at the time that I went into the place we were staying was vibrant and had a lot of workers, and no one told me that 11 p.m. everybody was leaving. And so it's about 8 or 9 cottages, and I needed to get a charger for my electronic equipment. And I come out at 11. Now, keep in mind, this is an area, giraffes and zebras. This is the wild, is outside of the shrubbery that is encased where we're encased, but it's a really nice place. And at the time that I went into the cottage, everything felt American and luxurious, right? Like
American.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, in terms of hospitality or luxury, it felt like a resort that could have been anywhere in the world where people were staying that was fancy, and it was bustling. There were a lot of lights on. Everybody was there. But as I came out, the last of the lights went off. And I kept walking along a path that had some lights on it and started hearing in in the trees and everything, I started hearing there was a lot of animal things happening.
Ace Ventura.
And it's dark and no one's around. And now I've gone far enough that I can't quite find my way back. I can't, like, I'm a little bit lost. Now, keep in mind, this is all enclosed, okay? But what swept over me was very real and justified terror, because those were big animals that I was hearing rustling around in the dark, and I realized fairly instantaneously that I was food. I don't generally feel that way.
I think that's actually an important moment. That's a humbling moment as a person. Be like, oh, we don't run this.
Yeah.
Even though it feels like
I don't have home court advantage.
Yeah,
here.
you don't. Have you guys ever come? I have a strange dream that I would love to see a bear in the wild. Like, I don't want to be that close that it's dangerous, but I would really just love to see a bear in the woods at some point in my life.
No. Because what if that bear is a mama?
Yeah.
I say there's always these terrifying videos on social media of a bear just chasing people that are on a hiking trail. I saw this one of a cougar. And it was like 6 minutes of the cougar started. No.
Oh,
not at the Blue Martini and Polka.
Okay.
No, I meant like a mountain lion.
Buddy.
And it would start and stop, and it would get its arms out, and the guy was just like in a panic. No, thinking that he's gonna die for like 6 minutes. I was just watching the entire video. No, I never want to see anything in the wild.
Okay.
I get
Just
terrified if large birds are flying over my head, because I'm like, yeah, they could probably take me. Like, they can probably just pick me up and go and drop me off in a nest.
Your wife has the fear that my wife has about her cats on our balcony, that one of these birds of prey is going to come and recognize that our cats, are a meatloaf in the wild.
It's so like, literally, I had to take our dog for a walk 2 nights ago, and my wife yelled at it like, "Hey, be very careful. For you, there's coyotes around." You're like, "Well, we have a dog too." She's like, "The dog will be fine. The dog's fine. We have a 90-pound pit bull. He's good." Me, she's worried about the coyote taking me out.
This happened to me 2 days ago here, because we're staying in the hills.
Oh, I thought you meant the baboon story, and I was like, "Oh, well, I have a lot more questions, Dan."
No, I have a coyote. I have coyote stories just from 2 days ago, because we didn't know what the sound was at 6 o'clock in the morning when it was still dark. We're in the hills, right? And you don't realize when you're staying here necessarily in the hills that. Again,
it's nature.
It's their land, not yours. You built something there, but it's not yours. And what we heard howling in the shrubbery was clearly a pack of coyotes that was howling at another pack of coyotes, and you can't see any of it. It's just it's in the trees, but it's very close by. And there's like, we're adjacent to a pickleball court where the net has clearly been eaten by wild animals. Like, you can just see that it's all.
This is such a California
Yeah, like,
and we wonder why, like, everything's bad. Like that right there.
This is why we're setting up pickleball courts in a coyote's home. They're like, "Why are the animals attacking?" Well, you said you put a pickleball court in its house.
Charlotte, the bear strategy, should you ever encounter it, because Ron McGill has told us that if it is chasing you, you are doomed if you run. You have to stand up, just so that you know. It's emergency information. You stand up and make yourself big and just.
Well, I'm dead. I'm dead. You got to get big, Brad. Well, due to certain genetic conditions that I possess, I don't think that's that. Yeah, get big. Okay, the size of half of the cub. Hey, bear. Hey, bear.
I don't think that Charlotte and Mike realize what a huge get, probably not the right adjective to use, what a huge get it is to have you this week, because later this week is National Throw a Short Person Day.
It is.
I'm sorry.
October 21st is National Throw a Short Person Day, according to Urban Dictionary. So on that day, that's where I go in my doomsday bunker. And that is
it's your scariest day.
That is the dwarf version of the Purge, where for 24 hours it is lawlessness out there in society. And it's like, what? I already had to be cautious around St. Patrick's Day and the entire holiday season. And now we just invented more days. Is my condition that of being a dwarf? is that the only one where we would have a national, like,
Well,
is there a national push a wheelchair down a hill day that I'm just missing here?
They could, yeah. Who? If there's like National Donut Day, and then it's like that. These are different. These are not the same.
Charlotte, it seems like you're scared of this subject matter.
No, it's just really mean. Who would come up with that day?
And there's also
Tall
like
people.
4 National Donut Days. Is this also like something that happens more
Is
than
this
once
one
a
of
year?
one or?
The scariest part is because, like, I'm sort of the voice of my people. I get sent this frequently in my DMs are just like, hey, it's National Stab a Dwarf Day. And you're like, it's National Toss a Little Person
You know
Day.
what you need to do? You need to get Morrissey to write a letter.
Strongly worded.
Strongly
Or
worded.
you need to get a bunch of violently trained monkeys to watch over you on National Throw a Short Person Day.
I want that. I want a force field of violently trained
There you
monkeys
go.
to attack when someone tries to throw me. Morrissey, let's get on that.
For reasons that are a little hard to discern, Brad Williams, the comedian who will be appearing in Dania at the Dania Improv November 16th through the 19th, is wearing a T-shirt that is the Golden Girls with Ric Flair. The Golden Girls, there's a Golden Girls themed restaurant that's opening in Miami shortly, and Ric Flair makes me think of how great that Kevin Harlan call was of the Tyreek Hill touchdown, where Tyreek Hill beats the corner and does a backflip in the end zone and celebrates by videotaping himself in the end zone. Kevin Harlan, and I felt so bad for the corner on this play because you're chasing Tyreek Hill. You're stumbling with your momentum behind Tyreek Hill. You fall on the floor and you're staring straight ahead at Tyreek Hill doing a backflip in front of you now as Kevin Harlan is shouting to the nation, "Oh, he smoked him." And then he goes, "Woo!" And as I'm watching all of that, Tyreek Hill is on pace to have more receiving yards than anybody has ever had in a season. I'm thinking of Brad Williams' Denver Broncos and how they are the opposite of everything that the Miami Dolphins are. And in the offseason, I'm guessing that you had an enormous amount of hope that he was going to go in and fix Russell Wilson. Wilson's been okay. They can't score, but he's been better than he was last year.
That's the barrier to entry. He's okay. He can't score. Well, that's a key part of being a quarterback.
But he's been better than he was last year.
And that shows you how bad he was last year.
Yeah, well, he's not the sole reason they're losing anymore.
Yes.
Now they have several reasons, including the coach that they gave up draft capital and several $1 million to. The most disappointing thing for Brad has to be that this is only the start of their attachment to Sean Payton and Russell Wilson.
Years to go. Like, I think maybe 2032 is when we finally have a draft pick. So other than that, it's just being a Broncos fan my whole life has been, there's 3 Super Bowls, so I'm very happy. And of course, the Tebow year, which I would argue was more exciting than some of the Super Bowls. But now, the pain and just the fact that this is 2 years in a row where in the offseason, I legit thought, oh, this team's going to be good.
No,
this team's going to be good.
See, that's the thing. It's being bad. Anyone can be bad.
Yeah.
Everyone's used to being bad. No problem. It's when you think you're going to be good.
Yes.
And you're not only not good.
Oh, we got Randy Gregory. We got DJ Jones. We got Russell Wilson.
Frank Clark.
Super Bowl winner. Yeah, we got all these guys. We're going to be with Sean Payton is going to finally fix all that. It's just the hope. Like, if I'm like back when you were a Cleveland Browns fan, Mike, every year you would just know, like, well, it's not going to be good.
Right. There was like maybe 3 years where I was like, hey, last year wasn't that bad. We have something good to build on. There'd be some new savior quarterback that you would stop believing in after a season.
Brandon Weeden.
Yeah, but I mean, your existence as a Bronco fan has generally been charmed.
Yes.
You've never looked at an extended run of poor form.
Has it ever felt worse than it did when it was 70-20? Like, is that as bad as it's ever felt to love that football team?
The worst it ever felt was when I paid thousands of dollars to go watch the Broncos in the Super Bowl against the Seahawks get absolutely destroyed by the same Russell Wilson. What is this life? This man kills me. And then he comes on my team. If you can't beat him, join him. And he's joining, and then he's worse. But yes, 70-20 from a coach that was literally a ball boy, grew up in the system, is a Broncos fan. If you ask him, what is your team growing up, he would tell you. I'm a Denver Broncos fan. I'm friends with Dan Soder, who is obviously friends with your coach. And he's telling me, yeah, he wanted to go there. He wanted to be the Broncos coach. Could not get an interview. Couldn't get an interview. Kyle Shanahan is the son of Mike freaking Shanahan. Also grew up in the system. Is a Broncos fan. Nope. Can't get him.
How about John Elway on the way out? We'll trade for Russ. I'm out.
Yeah.
Your problem. Walmart guys enjoy. And then
Enjoy
Walmart
this.
ownership looks at it like, well, how do we fix this Russell Wilson thing that we got saddled with?
I don't know. We got Condoleezza Rice in the ownership. Can she do something?
Who came up with the idea to give up, like, how many first-round draft picks did you give up for
I think
Sean Payton?
Oh, for Sean Payton?
It was one first-round pick, but it was other draft picks as well.
It was other draft picks. Russ was like, all right, Seattle, you got our first round for like 2 years. Like, we can't even tank for Caleb Williams. I don't even think we have a draft pick.
And the
this
NFL, the NFL kind of legislates that, okay, you have this Russell Wilson problem, but you can just draft a quarterback and you could survive that big contract if you get your QB savior at a low price, but you don't have the draft capital to go out and get the quarterback in a great quarterback class.
What can we just trade Russell for Kirk Cousins and just have the exact same thing happen with both teams?
I don't know. That's like the Indiana Jones like swapping. I don't think Minnesota
A bag of sand.
Yeah, I don't think Minnesota is like, we finally get away from this Kirk Cousins contract to bring in the Russell Wilson contract. To me, the most desperate part is there really is no end in sight.
No, there's nothing.
You're just stuck with this.
I named my daughter after one of my favorite Broncos players of all time, of course, Sammy Winder. And no one got that joke. Anyway, but
it would have been weird if it were Reuben Jones.
I did name her after a Broncos player, and now she grows up having that. Where like a few years ago, it would have been like, oh my God, that's your name? That's awesome. And now there's signed jerseys on the wall, and now that means nothing. Nothing.
Little Russell Wilson will grow up. It's so sad.
I want to ask you, though, how you feel about Elway, because obviously as a player, he was magnificent, probably the best athlete in the history of the city. But
Whoa.
Jokic wants a word.
A two-time MVP.
Now, but like,
I mean, it's crazy that he's in the conversation now.
I would say, that is.
But what I was going to say about him as an executive is, and I wanted to bring in Amin on this, because clearly John Elway, as a great quarterback, has no idea what a great quarterback looks like. He failed throughout to get any quarterbacks.
He didn't know that Peyton Manning was good.
He knew Peyton was good.
Credit to him.
But he saw Peyton Manning with his one fused neck and said he could still do it. And then they won with him being bad, which was
they won with Peyton Manning throwing 9 touchdowns and 17 interceptions that season, the worst season Peyton Manning has ever had.
Brock Osweiler, praise be his name.
Andres Galarraga would like a word as well.
You can keep doing that if you want. There aren't going to be a lot better than Elway. But how do
you would like a word?
How do you feel about Elway as an executive? Because on his way out, he saddles you with about $300 million in guaranteed money for Russell Wilson, who's now going to be in his late 30s on that contract.
God, that hurt. You just saying that. I would say that he did put together the squad that won the Super Bowl in 2015. So you can't say it was a complete failure. There are many franchises that would give up God knows how many, like, what would Stugotz give, how many years of suffering to have one more Jet Super Bowl that's during his lifetime. So I can't say he's a complete failure, but you have to look at it and be like, ugh, like, wow. And now he is out of the ownership and out of the front office, and we bring in George Patton, who helps with the Russell Wilson trade and also trades for Sean Payton. So I don't know. How's that Marlins GM? Can we get her in? Can we get her going?
Patrick Roy would like a word.
Oh, that's not bad, actually.
That's actually pretty good.
Joe Sakic is actually in the conversation because he won one as a player and as an executive. So I guess he would like a word.
Adam Foote would like a word.
Oh, that jersey
that still
sold
cuts me.
so many.
Adam Foote still cuts me because of that 4-game sweep.
So many Foot jerseys out there, man. Everywhere you go.
Claude Lemieux We'll keep going.
Assault.
You mentioned Mike McDaniel, and I don't know
Yeah.
if the rest of you have enjoyed as much as I have his mic'd up segments. There have been a few this year that I've really enjoyed. We made fun of at length Geno Smith screaming, "Oh my God," when Aaron Donald came through the middle of the
you
line.
mean Geno Smith being human?
Yes, anybody would shout the same thing. Speaking of which, there was another one this week because Kieran Williams of the Rams was hit by Jordan Davis a couple of weeks ago. Jordan Davis is 6'6", 340-something pounds. And what you heard after the squashing sound was just a whimper that said, "Oh shit," which was Kieran Williams. But Mike McDaniel was mic'd up, and he's just talking to himself all game, and he says, "I'm fighting myself, and myself is winning." He is really unusual, and his none of this would be charming if he didn't have an offense that was on a pace to blow out all other offenses in the history of the sport.
Oh, 1,000%. You tolerate the weirdness and you tolerate this stuff. Now, if he was losing and talking to himself, you'd be like, "Oh my God, our coach is insane. He's legitimately insane." But the fact that he has this historical offense and just players that are always open makes you go like, yeah, whatever he does, fine.
It's like, remember Adam Gase in the press conference where he was doing the crazy eyes thing?
Yeah.
Like, if they had come out and won 15 games, it's like, oh, man, the guy's great, right? They call it genius when it works. When it doesn't work, you just a loon.
But speaking of genius, though, are you surprised in any way? You've told us before that these people who are great at what they do can't necessarily coach it, can't necessarily explain to others why it is they were great, which is why most superstars don't end up being great coaches. But don't you think someone like John Elway should be able to spot in a quarterback future development that the rest of us could not spot?
No, well, he very clearly couldn't spot future development because he just kept drafting tall guys. But he saw the finished product with Peyton Manning. He's like, I'll take him. He's better than Tebow.
Emphasis on finished, by the way.
Yeah. I just realized someone else that's in the great state of Colorado. Deion Sanders would like a word.
Yeah. With the second and last team in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
He's so
What?
happy.
They're
He's
only
so
ahead of
happy.
Arizona State.
No, Dan, here's the thing. I don't think it's about the inability to explain in that case. I think the other thing is players, whether they're great or not, tend to have a bias for guys that they see something of themselves in for whatever reason. Like, it might be a little thing, but it's like, oh, that reminds me of me. And then they conflate that with, like, this person has it. And then they put their trust in it. So I think player evaluation sometimes is it's a science where you got to sit down and actually do the math rather than just kind of gut feeling he can play, he can't play. And again, for the star player, the great player, it's like, no, I know, because he's got that thing that I had, and I was great, so hence he's going to be great too.
But how is it that you pick terrible quarterbacks? Like, all of them are terrible. It's not like any of them even have a modicum of success other than the ones who we all can see can play that were Peyton Manning and Russell Wilson.
What's Nathan Peterman doing right now?
The Peterman.
Can we get him?
Where is he right now?
I think he's still around.
Is he?
Yeah. He might
Like
be in
working?
Chicago.
He's not in
No.
Oakland. No, I think he's
Well,
right.
no
I
one's
think
in
Mike
Oakland.
is right.
Trade
I'm
Russell
sorry.
for
Yeah, the
Peterman.
Raiders.
I'm starting the hashtag right now.
Next thing you'll tell me Trevor Simeon's on a roster somewhere.
He is. He's on the Jets.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
Yes,
Trevor
he is.
Simeon's
Yes,
on-
yes.
I was right.
Wow.
Nathan Peterman is a quarterback for the Chicago Bears.
Good God.
As if that franchise has
Wait, he's
something to
back there?
Yeah. They very clearly saw something they liked.